The morning was just like every other morning for Kate as she sat on the edge of her bed, thinking about what life would have been like if she had a complete family like other people. She had never met her father before, but her mother, Susan, would never let a day pass without reminding her of the man who abandoned them. All of a sudden, Susan's sharp voice came from the backyard. "Kate, are you going to sit there all day? Come and help me with these clothes before I break my back." "I'm coming, Mom," Kate replied, wiping off her tears. She went to the backyard where Susan was sifting through a pile of laundry. Her mother's face was always squeezed into a frown, which made her look older, even though she was only in her late 30s. Life had not been kind to her, and she made sure Kate felt the weight of her sacrifices. "You are so slow, just like your father," Susan complained as Kate picked up the clothes. Kate frowned. "Why do you always bring him up, Mom? I don't even know him." "And you never will," Susan snapped. "He's a selfish man who ruined my life and ran away. I gave up everything to raise you. Don't think for a second I will let you forget that." Kate said nothing. This was how most of their conversations ended, with her mother reminding her of everything she had lost because of her. Kate knew her mother's bitterness came from years of struggling alone, but it did not make the constant accusations any easier to bear. She had only learned to endure them. As Kate grew, she began to attract attention from men in the small town. At 23, she was beautiful, with a sweet personality that drew people to her. The first man to come calling was Mark, the son of a local carpenter. He was shy but sincere, and Kate liked him instantly. One evening, Mark knocked on their door. Susan opened it, and her expression immediately turned cold. "Yes? What do you want?" "Good evening. I am Mark. I would like to speak to Kate," Mark stammered. Susan's eyes narrowed. "What business do you have with my daughter?" Mark shifted nervously. I like her. I was hoping to get to know her better." Susan stared at him for a long moment before stepping outside and shutting the door behind her. "Listen to me, boy. Kate is not the kind of girl you would want to be with. She's lazy, disrespectful, and has no future. If you are looking for a wife, look elsewhere." Mark was taken aback. "But that's not true. Kate is." "Don't argue with me," Susan snapped. "I am her mother. I know her better than anyone. She will only bring you trouble. Now leave my house." Mark left, confused and hurt. When Kate asked him later why he was avoiding her, he hesitated before telling her the truth. "Your mother said, she said you weren't ready for marriage. She said you're not wife material." Kate's face burned with humiliation. That night, she confronted her mother. "Why would you say that to Mark? Why would you lie about me?" Susan didn't even look up from the clothes she was folding. "He's not good enough for you. Period. I am saving you from making the same mistakes I did." Kate couldn't believe her ears. "By ruining my reputation? You are not protecting me, Mom. You are controlling and destroying me." Susan stood up, her eyes blazing with anger. "Don't you dare raise your voice at me. I gave my life up for you, and this is how you thank me? By running after men." Kate stormed out of the room as hot tears rolled down her face. However, it wasn't just Mark. Every time a man showed interest in Kate, Susan found a way to drive him off. When Paul, a school teacher, came to visit, Susan told him that Kate was irresponsible and couldn't keep a house clean. When Eric, a businessman, expressed his feelings, Susan warned him that Kate was too ambitious and would never be a good wife. Kate's frustration grew with each passing year. Her mother's interference made her feel trapped, like she would never have a life of her own. One evening, Kate decided to speak up again. "Mom, I'm not a child anymore. I want to get married. I want a family." Susan's face darkened. "A family? Do you know what it is like to raise a child alone? To have your dreams crushed because of some man? No, Kate, I won't let you throw your life away. But I am not you." Kate protested. "I'm not going to make the same mistakes. Why can't you just let me be happy? Because happiness is a lie." Susan screamed. "Men will promise you the world and leave you with nothing, just like your father did to me." The room fell silent. Kate stared at her mother, realizing that no matter what she said, Susan would never let go of her bitterness. It was useless. The breaking point came a few months later when Kate met James, a kind-hearted engineer who was different from the others. He did not back down when Susan tried to intimidate him at first, but eventually, he too couldn't withstand her relentless attacks. "I can't do this, Kate," James said one night after Susan had accused him of being a liar and a cheat to his face. "Your mother is impossible." Kate watched him walk away, and her heart broke into pieces. That night, she decided she was done. She packed her things. "I'm leaving, Mom," she said as she stood in the doorway with her bag. Susan looked up from her chair, startled. "What are you talking about? I can't live like this anymore. You have ruined every chance I had at happiness. I am done." "Fine," Susan said coldly. "Go, but don't come crying to me when the world chews you up and spits you out." Kate did not reply. She simply walked out of the door and did not look back. She moved to the city and found a job as a receptionist at an engineering firm. For the first time in her life, Kate felt free. She made friends, explored her interests, and gradually started to build the life she had always dreamed of. Meanwhile, it had been over 2 decades since Samuel walked out of Susan's life. Samuel was Susan's childhood lover and the long-lost father of Kate. He had left the country for a better life immediately after Susan got pregnant. Unfortunately, things didn't go as planned, and he lost contact with her. Nevertheless, after all those years, he still remembered Susan and longed for reconciliation with her and, hopefully, their child. After weeks of asking questions about Susan, he arrived at her doorstep. Susan froze as she saw the man who had abandoned her and Kate. After a moment of silence, Samuel gathered his courage to speak. "Susan, I know I don't deserve this, but I have come to ask for your forgiveness." Susan narrowed her eyes. "Forgiveness? After all these years? After everything you did?" Samuel bowed his head in shame. "I was a fool. I left because I thought I could give us a better life. But I failed, Susan. I've regretted it every single day." Susan stared at him as a storm of emotions tumbled in her chest. Then, an idea formed in her mind. She had to keep Kate out of his life. "Well, the child didn't survive," Susan said, trying to sound convincing. "I lost her after you left." Samuel's face crumpled, and tears fell down his cheeks. No, Susan. I didn't know. I am so sorry. I should never have left. You have no idea what I went through." Susan cried, giving birth to a child alone and then losing her. "I will make it up to you," Samuel promised as he fell to his knees. "I will spend the rest of my life making it right. Please, Susan, let me stay. Let me be with you again." Susan hesitated but eventually nodded. "Fine, but you have to prove yourself, Samuel. I can't trust you so easily." Meanwhile, Kate, now living in the city, was happy with her new life until she received news from a childhood friend. "Kate, your mom is acting like a young girl again," her friend said over the phone. "Some man showed up, and now she's walking around the market as if she's 20 again." Kate's blood boiled. Her mother was with a man? After all she had put her through? Susan had ruined her chances of being with good men, and now she thought she could just move on and enjoy her life? Never. Kate decided to return to her mother's town, determined to ruin Susan's newfound happiness. She wanted her mother to feel the same loneliness and heartbreak she had caused her. When Kate arrived, she saw a man preparing to leave the house. She hid behind a tree and watched as he kissed Susan on the cheek. Her bile rose. She couldn't let this happen. After the man left, Kate went in to confront her mother. "So, you think you deserve happiness after ruining my life?" she spat, trembling with rage. Susan was startled. "Kate, what are you talking about? You drove away every man who loved me," Kate shouted. "And now you think you can have a man for yourself." Susan's face hardened. "You don't understand. I have been through more pain than you can imagine." Kate fumed with anger. "You don't deserve happiness, and you will never be happy. I will make sure of that." Susan couldn't stand her daughter's threats. She charged at Kate to hit her, as she had done before, but this time Kate pushed her back. Within the blink of an eye, Susan crashed against the wall and fell to the floor, lifeless. Kate froze in shock. She had not intended to harm her mother. Fortunately for her, no one had seen her enter the house, so she sneaked out and fled to the city. Soon, the news spread that Susan had been found dead in her house. It was assumed that she must have slipped and fallen. Samuel was inconsolable. Just when he thought he could make up for lost time, Susan was gone. He arranged a small burial for her and spent his days brooding in her house. Kate refused to return after hearing about her mother's death and burial. However, one day, she summoned the courage to visit the home she had grown up in. When she arrived, she saw Samuel in the living room and recognized him as the man she had seen kissing her mother. She didn't know he was her father, and no one else in town knew either. Kate introduced herself to him, pretending to be a friendly neighbor and extending her condolences. She exaggerated how Susan's death had affected her, but explained she couldn't return sooner due to work commitments. Samuel seemed uninterested until Kate began reminiscing about fond memories she had shared with Susan. Intrigued by someone who had been close to Susan, Samuel started laughing and sharing stories with Kate. Subsequently, Kate began visiting Samuel more often. She brought him meals, comfort, and company. Soon, Samuel found himself falling for Kate, unaware of who she truly was. Kate, however, felt no guilt pursuing Samuel. She believed it was her payback for everything her mother had put her through. As their relationship grew closer, Kate and Samuel crossed a line neither of them expected to reach so soon. One night, after a heartfelt conversation about loss and regrets, they kissed. It went deeper from there, and soon they were involved in a secret affair. Weeks later, Kate discovered she was pregnant. At first, she felt triumphant, knowing that she had finally gotten what she wanted. She shared the news with Samuel, who was overjoyed and looked forward to his second chance at becoming a father. He knew he had to do his best this time around. One day, Kate decided to visit her mother's house after a long time. She went into Susan's room, and while she was going through the shelf, she found an old letter with her mother's handwriting. It was addressed to Samuel but had never been sent out. Samuel, I hope you are happy wherever you are, knowing that you abandoned me and our daughter. I hate you deeply, and I don't know if I can ever forgive you. Even if you ever return, I will make sure I keep her away from you. I am sorry, but she has to pay for all your sins. After all, she's your blood. Kate's hands shook as she read the words. Her heart pounded in her chest as she tried to piece the puzzle together. The horrifying truth sank in. Samuel was her father. She staggered out of the room and ran outside, gasping for air. Her mind was in turmoil. She had plotted revenge, killed her mother, and taken over her father, all without knowing the truth. Kate couldn't bring herself to tell Samuel the truth. She knew it would destroy him. The weight of her actions was too much to bear. That evening, she left a note on the kitchen table and disappeared into the darkness. I am sorry for everything. I have made mistakes I can't fix. Take care of yourself and never look back. Samuel found the note when he returned that evening and was devastated. He couldn't think of anything he had done wrong and didn't understand why Kate left so suddenly. With Kate's sudden disappearance, Samuel felt as though his world had fallen apart once again. He had lost Susan, and now the one person who had brought light into his life was gone too. He still didn't know why she left, and the unanswered questions tormented him. He spent days searching for her. He asked around the village, traveled to nearby towns, and even went to the city, hoping someone had seen her. But Kate seemed to have vanished without a trace. Samuel's guilt from his past mistakes resurfaced. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was being punished for abandoning Susan and their daughter all those years ago. How could he lose Kate and his unborn child just like that? One evening, he sat alone in Susan's small house, staring at the empty chair where she used to sit. The house reminded him of Susan and Kate because that was where he had met them both. He would visit the house regularly. Then one day, while going through some of Susan's belongings, Samuel found a journal hidden at the back of an old drawer. It was worn, and the pages were filled with Susan's neat handwriting. As he read, his heart sank. The entries detailed Susan's struggles after he left her, her bitterness toward him, and the lengths she went to keep their daughter, Kate, under her control. But one entry stood out. Kate will never know the truth. She still thinks her father abandoned us, and I will let her continue to believe it. If she knew he returned and that I lied, it would ruin everything. Samuel's hand shook as he realized the full extent of Susan's deception. Kate was alive. She had always been alive. And Kate, the woman he had fallen for, was his daughter. No, no, Samuel shouted. He dropped the journal and staggered to his feet. The memories of his time together with mother and daughter, the conversations, the intimate moments, all came flooding back in horrifying detail. For days, Samuel was consumed by shame and despair. He couldn't eat or sleep. The realization that he had unknowingly been with his own daughter was too much to bear. Driven by a desperate need to make things right, Samuel set out to find Kate again. Months later, he finally found her in a distant town. She was living in a shared apartment and working at a local clinic. Her pregnancy was visible by now. When she saw him, her face turned pale. "What are you doing here?" Samuel swallowed hard. "I know the truth, Kate. I know who you are. I know what happened." Kate stared at him in shock. For a moment, she didn't speak. Then she turned away and cried with shame and regret. "I didn't know. I didn't know you were my father until it was too late. And I didn't know you were my daughter too," he said. "I came back to find you and your mother, to make things right. But Susan lied to me. She told me you were dead." Kate let out a bitter laugh. "She lied to both of us. She ruined my life. She drove away every man who loved me. And when I found out about you and her, I wanted revenge. I wanted her to feel what I felt too." Samuel stepped closer. "And now? What do you feel now, Kate?" She turned to face him with tears in her eyes. "I feel lost. I don't know how to fix this. I don't know how to live with what we've done." Samuel stayed in the town with Kate, determined to help her. They didn't speak much about their past, but there was an unspoken agreement between them. They would do whatever it took to protect the unborn child. Samuel got a job at a nearby factory and supported Kate financially. He avoided questions from the townspeople about their relationship, telling them that he was only an old family friend helping a single mother. Unfortunately, as the months went by, Samuel's health began to decline. The stress and guilt of the past had taken a toll on him, and he developed a persistent cough that worsened over time. He refused to see a doctor, instead focusing on ensuring that Kate and the baby would have a stable future. When the baby was born, a baby girl, Samuel held her in his arms. "You are my second chance. As long as I am here, I promise to give you the life I couldn't give your mother." Samuel kept true to his promise and was ever present for Kate and their daughter. However, a few months later, he passed away quietly in his sleep. Kate mourned Samuel and vowed to honor his memory by being the best mother she could be and by breaking the cycle of pain and bitterness that had haunted their family for so long. Thank you for watching this story. Kindly share your thoughts about the story with me in the comment section. What lessons did you learn from this story? Share the story with your loved ones. Give this story a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel for more interesting stories. Thank you, and remain blessed. Bye.